Welcome back, fight fans. Bobby Betts back in the house for another week of UFC fights. All right, second card of the year 2022, and we got a good one. We got UFC 270. We got two belts on the line. We got Brandon Moreno facing off against Deuce de Guerra, God of War, Davison Figueiredo, and we got Francis, the Predator, and Ngannou fighting Cyril Von Gane, and it is going to be a good one. And so we're going to go through right now. We're going to rip through the entire card, going from the early prelims all the way up to the main event fights. Let you know who I'm liking, who I'm not liking. And then tomorrow after the weigh-ins, once I hit the scale, see how everyone's looking, then I'll put in my final picks. So just a brief recap from last week. If you tailed Bobby Betts, you're down about 1.2 units. It ain't nothing. It's the start of 2022. It's the first card. We got a little excited. Ended up, putting a little bit too much into that card, with Rahi Brahimaj. Probably not the smartest pick. Ugly Joe making his UFC debut was a stretch as well. But we're back, baby. We're back. And this week, I can guarantee you, there's a lot of good things I like on this card, a lot of things that I'm seeing, a lot of matchups, a couple of props. So I'll see what I can get you. But start off with the rundown. And we will start with the first fight on the early prelims, which is going to be Kay Hansen versus Jasudavicius. So Jasudavicius is making her UFC debut. Kay Hansen has, this will be, I think, her third fight in the UFC. Hansen's going up a weight class, so she's going to be going from 115 up to 125 for this fight. And that's kind of what has me worried with Kay Hansen. I mean, normally if she was at the weight class where she had fought at previously, where she's the bigger fighter, she's the bigger girl, she's able to control them with the wrestling. She's got a really aggressive style, strikes to clinch, and then, for the most part, from what I've seen on tape, able to drag them down. And now she lost a tough decision the last time out. Who did she fight the last time out? Corey McKenna. Tough decision against Corey McKenna. Corey McKenna also a very good grappler, so not a knock on Kay Hansen. Honestly, I think she's going to get the job done against Jasudavicius, but her moving up in weight class scares me because Jasudavicius has fought at 125. She is going to be the bigger fighter, and it's just going to be a matter of whether Kay Hansen is still going to be able to out-muscle and, out-bully the girls at 125. Because Jasudavicius is going to be bigger. She's going to have the length on Hansen, and, from what I've seen, she's a pretty decent striker. She's willing to take a shot, to land a shot. I don't think she has overwhelming power. Pretty accurate with her punches, with straight 1-2s. Solid boxing, not a ton of head movement. I think Hansen's not going to have the advantage on the feet. If it stays on the feet for the majority of the fight, Jasudavicius is going to win that fight. But if Kay Hansen's able to get her down to the mat, take her down, I don't see her having too much problems. I mean, the line right now, Hansen's a 260 favorite. I don't see much value in it. Probably going to stay away from it. Moving on, we got Matt, the steamroller Frevola, facing off against Gennaro Valdez. So this is an interesting matchup. I mean, if you're going to pick a stylistic fight for Matt Frevola to be able to win, it's going to be Gennaro Valdez. Valdez, he's a finisher, man. I mean, looking at his past fights, he's, KO and submission. He's a real aggressive fighter, likes to crowd space, likes to get inside, likes to bang. He'll strike the clinch and then, isn't afraid to try to jump for a submission early. He's always looking to finish the fight. Part of the reason why he got a contract. He was on the Contender Series, and if you watch the first round of that Contender Series fight against Patrick White, probably one of the best rounds of fighting you will ever see. If you want to introduce someone to the UFC who has no clue about fighting and isn't kind of a pansy and enjoys violence, they're going to enjoy the first round of that Contender Series fight against Patrick White because it was back and forth, and these dudes are just banging it out. I mean, Valdez is wearing it, White's wearing it, and White's giving it back to Valdez. And White, at the end of that round, Valdez had a few takedowns, but Valdez started to gas hard, and White was really starting to piece him up towards the end of that round. Valdez did not look good coming off the stool for the second. And in kind of a wild turn of events, it looked like White was going to put him away. I mean, Valdez looked gassed on the feet, and then all of a sudden he lands this left, and it just stuns White. And then he follows up, gets him down to the ground, knocks him out, wins the contract. Crazy. So, I mean, if anything, we know that Gennaro Valdez can fight through adversity. But I just think the style of Matt Frevola is going to be a little bit too much for Gennaro Valdez. Frevola's coming off that flash KO loss to Terrence McKinney where he got knocked out within the first 5 seconds of the fight. And I think people are putting a ton of stock into that. But again, you can't go off of a flash KO, okay? He got caught. It is what it is. Yeah, he's not the most sound technical striker, but I mean, 5 seconds, I mean, give me a break. I mean, McKinney didn't even have a chance to figure him out. I mean, it was the first 1-2 for Frevola, probably got caught in between actions and took one on the jaw from a power puncher. It is what it is. You know, I wouldn't put too much stock into it. You know, Frevola is susceptible to get KO'd. I mean, Polo Reyes KO'd him in his debut, so it's not exactly like, you know, his chin is not there for the taking, because it most certainly is. But is Gennaro Valdez going to be able to do it? I don't think he is, just because I think he's going to crowd the space a little bit too much against Frevola. He's really going to try to get after him, and Frevola is going to be able to wrestle him. I mean, he's going to see those legs. He's going to see those hips there for the taking. He's going to drive a double leg, and he's going to be able to get the fight to the mat. And what worries me with Valdez is the gas tank. I really think Frevola is going to be able to take this fight longer than the first round. And if it gets out of the first round, I mean, the power bar in Gennaro Valdez is going to fall off of a cliff, especially, you know, if it's fought at any type of pace. Probably not as crazy of a pace as, you know, the Contender Series fight against Patrick White, but if it's any kind of pace, I favor Frevola heavily in this fight, because I know he can go 3 rounds hard. He wrestled on the defensive against Arman Sarukian pretty much the entire 3 rounds. Looked decent, still looked like he had something left in the tank, and I don't think Gennaro Valdez is going to have anything left in the tank unless he's able to put Frevola away in the first, which I don't think he's going to be able to, because I think Frevola is going to duck under some of these wild shots, take him down, bada bing, bada boom, ride out a decision, or maybe even, you know, snatch a neck when he's tired, get a submission. The line right now, I think Frevola is favored at 195. There was some crazy movement. At one point, he was the underdog. But a lot of heavy money coming in on Frevola. So, you know, we'll see if we touch it. I do like Frevola a lot, but 195 might be a parlay piece. We'll have to see on Friday, but got Frevola winning that fight. Moving on. Silvana Juarez versus Vanessa Demopoulos. So this was a fight that was supposed to occur last week, and it ended up getting pushed back a week. Again, in this fight, I like Vanessa Demopoulos because, again, it's a stylistic matchup similar to Frevola and Gennaro Valdez. I think Silvana Juarez is going to want to strike. You know, that's her bread and butter, and that's what she's going to be looking to do. She's going to be looking to keep it on the feet. But Vanessa Demopoulos, she's a heavy wrestler, heavy grappler. She wants to get the fight to the ground at all costs. So I think she will be able to do it. You know, the common opponent, and I hate when people do MMA math. Honestly, I think it's stupid. But, you know, they do have a common opponent in Godinez. And if we're looking at it right now, Vanessa Demopoulos, when she fought, let's take a look in the old archives right here. When she fought Lupita Godinez, she lost a majority decision in LFA 94. When Silvana Gomez-Jaurez fought Lupita Godinez, I'm pretty sure lost by armbar. Yeah, lost by armbar in the first round. So, I mean, Godinez had a lot tougher time with Demopoulos. Demopoulos was able to keep the fight going. That was a 5-round fight for the belt. And it's just a testament to Demopoulos' gas tank. And Godinez did wear some damage in that fight. She did get taken down. She did get worn on a little bit. But Demopoulos, I mean, she did take her fair share of damage, okay? It's not like she's some crazy wrestler who's going to be able to keep the ground. She's going to keep it on the ground the entire time. No, like, she's going to take some damage, but she's going to wear it. She's got a decent chin, and I think it just favors her. The longer the fight goes, she's going to be able to control Godinez on the ground for large periods of time, and I really think she's going to be able to take that one away. She's minus 150. Again, I worry about her getting caught early, but the more the fight goes on, the more tired they get. I really think Demopoulos is going to pull that one out on the ground. Moving on, we got Tony Gravely versus Simon Oliviera. And this is another interesting fight. I do like Tony Gravely off the jump, but watching some tape on Simon Oliviera, who's making his UFC debut, coming off a Contender Series fight, this dude is a wild man, and he's an interesting cat, because, you know, the first fight, if you go on YouTube and you watch the fight, his last loss against Ari Farias, he fought in ACB. It is a wild fight, okay? It is probably one of the bloodiest fight I have ever seen. Farias gets caught with ground and pound early in round 1 and just bleeds all over the place. This dude must have lost like 5 pints of blood on the canvas, and they're just rolling around in the blood. It's almost cringy to watch, but it's awesome at the same time. But anyway, in that fight, this is what worries me about Oliviera, because he doesn't really have takedown defense. Okay, and if you're fighting Tony Gravely, who's a good wrestler, you got to have takedown defense. His takedown defense is literally to jump Gilly every time. Every time Farias went in, got a double leg and cinched it in, he didn't try and sprawl. He literally just pulled Gilly and tried to guillotine him. And it did not work. Farias was able to get out of it every time. He does have 7 guillotines on his record, so it's clearly a technique that he is very comfortable with. And on the feet, he is a very good striker. He's quick. He's got a very heavy Muay Thai background. And he's not afraid to strike, and he's not afraid to get in there, and he's not afraid to engage with you. I mean, his Contender Series fight against Jose Alday, they both took shots, but for 3 rounds consistently, Simon Oliveira was dishing out punishment. And he was dishing out punishment on the feet. He even was able to get Alday to the ground at some point. His takedown attempts are a little wild. Like, he'll just run across the cage. He doesn't really set him up at all. Just going to run across the cage and try to grab a double leg and take you down, which I don't think is going to work against Gravely. But it's going to be an interesting fight. And I think Gravely, it's going to be a tough one for him. But ultimately, I think the fact that he's going to be able to wrestle Oliveira down to the ground and control that fight and also land shots of his own are going to pay dividends for him, because he does have some pop behind his shots. I mean, his last fight out, that loss against Nate Maness was tough, because he arguably, if there's 5 more seconds left in the second round, he finishes Maness, okay? Or round 1, he finishes Maness. And then they come out in round 2, and then he gets caught halfway through the round, and Maness ends up getting the KO win. But he had Maness dead to rights. He threw an overhand bomb, dropped him, and then the time just ran out. It was just a little bit too late. So I really do think if he's able to land some heavy shots against Oliveira and then clinch, take him to the ground, Oliveira's going to pull guillotine. He's going to be able to get out of the guillotine, and then it's going to be control time from there on out. It's going to land some heavy ground and pound, and I just see him being able to, either edge out a decision or finish Oliveira. The thing that worries me, though, is the line. It's like minus 260, and that's just, I'm not sure if that's enough for me to be able to risk him, wearing one from Oliveira, because like I said, Oliveira, 3 strong rounds. Cardio is not a problem with Oliveira. He was the Contender Series fight, that fight that I mentioned against Farias. You can go watch it on YouTube, but the gas tank never slows, and he's like full throttle 4th gear from round 1 through round 3. So he's not going to slow down. So it's really going to have to be a full performance from Gravely, but I think Gravely is going to be able to get it done. You're looking at a potential parlay piece, minus 260. But other than that, it's going to be tough. So we'll see if we're going to bet it. Moving on. That concludes the early prelims. So moving on to the prelims. Starting to build the anticipation here. A little sip of the coffee. I know it's a switch up from the normal Miller Lights, but man, we really hit the bottle hard last weekend. So we got to build up to it. And Saturday, we're going to be sipping plenty of cocktails. So you got to stay a little healthy. You got to get some black coffee in you. Maybe a hearty breakfast with some pancakes. Really build up the stamina and be ready to go by Saturday for these fights. So anyway, moving on. We got Michael Morales versus Trevin Giles. Again, another good fight, okay? Michael Morales is undefeated. He's 12-0. He's facing Trevin Giles, which I think, in my personal opinion, is a pretty difficult opponent to kick off your UFC career. I mean, he was on a nice little run before he ran into Dricus du Plessis and caught a right and got finished by ground and pound. But honestly, Michael Morales is pretty good in his own right. I mean, against his Contender Series fight, up until the Contender Series, I mean, the level of competition was slightly questionable, but you're looking at a guy with a lot of skill. He's a very smart fighter for how young he is. He's 22 years old, but in that Contender Series fight against Nikolai Veretnikov, who was coming in, and he was 9-3 at the time. I mean, he really showed some veteran poise that I don't see out of too many fighters. I mean, in the first round, he pretty much just used it to download data. I mean, Veretnikov outlanded him, like 25-12 on the strikes. But, he didn't really wear that much damage. And he was just downloading, the openings, what Veretnikov was giving him, his tendencies, his feints, and just getting his timing down. And then he spent the entire second round. He came out and he looked like he had more gas in the tank than he did in the first round. He wasn't on his back foot. He was pushing. He was landing shots. He was striking to clinch, and he was taking the fight to the ground. He pretty much had his way with Veretnikov in rounds 2 and 3, outstruck him, and Veretnikov started to gas, and that fight really wasn't even that close. So, I mean, he showed that he can have, in that big of a moment on the Contender Series when you're fighting for a contract, to be able to go out there basically say round 1 is a wash because I want to get my reads and then just go for it rounds 2 and 3. Pretty impressive to me. But Trevin Giles, it's Trevin Giles. I really think that, coming in and fighting a veteran like Trevin Giles in your UFC debut is a tough task. I mean, Trevin Giles, you come in as your first UFC fight, you should be fighting the gatekeeper who's like lost 2 fights in a row to questionable competition and is fighting for a new contract, okay? You shouldn't be coming in fighting Trevin Giles, who has wins over James Krause. He's got wins over Roman Dolidze, heavy wrestler, win over Bevan Lewis. And before that, he's gone, like he's been around since 2017. I mean, he's a vet, and he's only on a 1 fight losing streak to Dricus du Plessis, who's an up-and-coming prospect. And he didn't even look half bad in that first round either against du Plessis. So, I just think it's going to be too tough of a matchup for Morales to overcome in his UFC debut. I mean, fighting Trevin Giles. I mean, Trevin Giles is going to really beat up that body, and he's going to get you in the clinch. And if he's doing the same thing that he did in his Contender Series fight, I mean, he's got to really watch out because I don't know if Trevin Giles is really the guy to do that to. I mean, I think he's going to put heavy work in if Morales isn't aggressive enough in the first round. I think he's really going to take a toll on him for those second and third rounds, and I think Trevin Giles is going to be able to wrestle Morales. Morales has good wrestling, though, so, I mean, it's going to be tough to get him down to the ground. But at the same time, I think Giles is going to be the more aggressive fighter to start, and I think he's really going to pay dividends with that body work. And the line right now, Trevin Giles is not the favorite. He's the underdog. Morales is the favorite in this fight. I'm really liking Trevin Giles, okay? I think that's going to be one that we throw on the card here. You got to edge the veteran in this situation, which I know is a stark contrast from last card because we went with two new dudes with, Brahimaj, he had fought twice previously, but him and Ugly Joe, and, it against questionable competition, they did not fare well. And Trevin Giles is not questionable competition. He has established himself as a solid fighter in the UFC. So we're going with Trevin Giles there. But interesting matchup again because Morales does have a significant reach advantage. I think the dude's got like his knuckles are down to his ankles. Like this dude's got like reach like you've never seen. So that's going to be another puzzle for Trevin Giles to try to get inside on. But like I said, I think he's going to get the job done. All right, moving up the card, we got Jack Della Maddalena versus Pete Rodriguez. This is an interesting one because Jack Della Maddalena is making his UFC debut coming off the Contender Series. We got a ton of these guys. I think there's 8 people making their UFC debut in this fight, so I'm going to just sound like a broken record every time I'm saying it. But, it's pretty awesome. A lot of these prospects are solid prospects. We're going to see a lot of good fights. But Jack Della and Jack Della Maddalena is one of them. This dude, I think he's from Australia. But this dude, in his Contender Series fight, another Contender Series guy making his debut. But Jack Della Maddalena fought Ange Loosa. And Ange Loosa was coming in 7-1 into that fight. Brazilian, solid striking, solid all-around game. And it was a unanimous decision. But, dude, I think any other fighter would have got knocked out by Jack Della Maddalena. I mean, this dude came out. He's got a heavy boxing stance, but, Loosa, I guess, tried to chop the legs a little bit, but he was in his face constantly, throwing together boxing combinations, nice long combinations. He was tagging Loosa clean to the body, clean to the jaw, like heavy-handed. Dude, this guy is. Heavy hands. And Loosa did not go down. So I'll give Loosa his credit. Guy's got a chin on him, but I really think Della Maddalena is here to stay. I think he's going to be one of those guys like Adrian Yanez. Like, this dude is a sniper, and he's going to come through in a couple of these matchups that we're going to see early on in his career. He's going to start running through guys. And I don't think Pete Rodriguez making his UFC debut coming in, I don't think he's going to offer much resistance to Jack Della Maddalena at all. I mean, let's run through Pete Rodriguez. I mean, Pete Rodriguez is pretty much freaking Tom Hardy from Warrior. I mean, this guy is unknown coming in, but his record is just all KOs, which is kind of crazy. I mean, this guy's got like first-round KOs. Like, you look at the footage on YouTube, and it's like the one fight that he fought, he's like he's fighting outside, like it looks like in like a freaking junkyard. but he mauls this dude. Okay, and then the next fight, an Icon, you can watch that. He starches the dude in the first round. No problem, flat out, lights out, heavy right to the jaw, and the guy just flatlines. So it's pretty remarkable the power that he has, but he's incredibly small for the division. He fights at welterweight, and he's 5'9", with a 73-inch reach. So, I mean, Pete Rodriguez, there really isn't much, other than the fact that he's got immense power in his hands, there really isn't much on him. So, you know, things that you can go off of trends that you've seen in previous fights like this, where it's like the guy comes in unknown, but he's got first-round finishes in all of his fight. The only fight that he lost was an amateur fight that looks like he lost 2 amateur fights. Okay, so the one was a unanimous decision. The other one was a rear naked choke. But all of his wins have been first-round knockouts. Every single one of his wins, amateur and pro, have been knockouts, okay? What does that tell me? 1, he's got punching power. Great. If you have punching power, if you don't connect, you're not going to knock the guy out. And 2, what's his gas tank like? This guy's only gone to a decision one time and he lost, okay? I don't think I'll be able to find any footage on him versus Christopher Lanez in Cage Rage on the River 13, but I can tell you right now, there's a good chance that he probably gassed out if he's losing the decision. And also, it's untested. So I got to go with the guy who I've seen go 3 rounds strong against a very formidable opponent in Angelusa. I got to go with the guy who's got plenty of KOs in the first and second round on his record. And I really like Jack Della Maddalena in this fight. Now, the line is going to be about -300, maybe a little bit higher as we get up there. But there's a couple of things that I do like in this fight. I do like the under 1.5 a lot, and that's at like -140 because it's going to have 2 outcomes. Jack Della Maddalena is going to go out and maul this dude, or Pete Rodriguez is going to land a Hail Mary bomb and put Jack Della Maddalena's lights out and become literally the Tom Hardy of the real-life Tom Hardy in the UFC. Like, and just be this guy that came out of thin air and all of a sudden he's just knocking dudes out. And if you bet the under 1.5, you got 7.5 minutes for these 2 dudes to go in and try to starch one another. And that's more than enough time for me. If you want to get crazy, you could probably bet a first-round finish. But I like to give myself an extra 2 minutes and 2 minutes 30 seconds in that second round to try to hit that under. All right, moving up the card, we got Ilia Topuria versus Charles Jourdain. And this is another solid matchup, honestly. I mean, Topuria is coming in as a heavy favorite. He's like -590 right now. I mean, almost 6-1 against Charles Jourdain. And I really think that line is a little absurd. I don't think we're giving Jourdain enough credit, for his stand-up. I think the issue that the odds makers and probably the people that are betting on Topuria that bet him up are looking at is the fact that Jourdain is very susceptible to the takedown, is very susceptible to being submitted. And, looking at Topuria's body of work, I mean, that's his bread and butter is, wrestle, get you down on the ground, take you down, grab a neck, grab an arm, and try to rip it off. The last 2 fights he's fought against Damon Jackson, knocked him out clean. And then he fought Ryan Hall, which is always an odd fight because Ryan Hall is a specialist. He's a very good specialist, all right? Don't get me wrong. He came into that fight 8-1. But these 2 guys aren't going to offer too much resistance on the feet. Damon Jackson, his game, he wants to get you down, he wants to take you down, he wants to submit you. Ryan Hall, same thing. He's going to roll, he's going to throw wild kicks. He's not really going to he's going to try to intentionally engage in a clinch situation so he can try to roll for a leg, lock up a knee bar, lock up an ankle. And what Topuria did in that fight was amazing. Every time they got close, he just pulled out of it, made Ryan Hall fight him on the feet, ended up clipping him. Ryan Hall went down and then finished him in side control with some vicious ground and pound. So that's how you want to fight Ryan Hall. Against Jourdain, I think Jourdain's going to be tough because if Topuria tries to earn the respect on the feet, I think he's going to find himself on the losing end of a lot of the exchanges with Jourdain just because I think he is, that good of a boxer and that good of a striker. But the big thing is I think Topuria is going to shoot, and I don't think Jourdain is going to be able to keep the fight on the feet long enough for him to be able to secure a knockout, and definitely I don't think he's going to be able to get it to a decision. I think Topuria is going to take him down to the ground, and he's pretty much going to have his way with him down on the ground as well. So wouldn't be surprised if Topuria got a finish here, but it's going to be a lot more it's going to be a tough fight, man. I think these guys throwing these odds together, 6-1 is a little insane. There's got to be some heavy money coming in on Topuria, but we got to give Jourdain some credit. I mean, one, he's the only guy that was willing to step up and take the fight on short notice, and two, I mean, he's 12-4-1, all right? And the guy's fought in the UFC, and he starches dudes. Like, he's a good fighter, okay? So let's give him some credit, but I think it's a bad stylistic matchup for him. I got Topuria in this one, but again, the line is tough. The line's going to be tough to bet it. Moving on. Now, this is a fight. This is what I'm looking for, baby. This is the one. Raoni Barcelos versus Victor La Mangosta Henry. La Mangosta is in the UFC, and I am super pumped about it. Unfortunately, he's fighting Raoni Barcelos, and I think he's got too many advantages, but I love the Mongoose, baby. Victor Henry. Let's talk about Victor Henry a little bit for people that don't know him. So he's making his UFC debut, but this guy's been around the block, okay? This guy is an absolute legend. He's fought overseas and has done very well in Ryzen. He's fought in Deep, and he's fought in a ton of different regional promotions, fought in Pancrase. I mean, like, this guy has fought some killers overseas. And his record right now, he's 21-5. It just seems like this guy always finds a way to win. Like, he's on the feet. I really gotta give Barcelos the advantage on the feet. I really think he's going to tag Victor Henry up. Victor Henry might be a little bit of a slow start for him. A lot of the fights that I watched, he doesn't get off to the greatest of starts. There's only one fight I think that I saw. It was a title fight. I think it was against Albert Morales. It might have been Albert Morales. Who knows? I don't know. But all I know is this dude, for the most part, he's going to get off to a slow start. But when he gets taken to the ground, I mean, this dude has sweeps. This dude has creative ways to turn the fight in his favor that you'll never see before. And a lot of people don't see it coming. I mean, against Kyler Phillips, still on football. All right, Kyler Murray's out of the playoffs. I don't know why I'm saying Kyler Murray. Kyler Phillips, okay, the Matrix. He fought him, won by split decision. Phillips came out heavy on the striking. Victor Henry didn't really have an answer for it. Ended up getting taken down. But then Henry kind of found his way halfway through the second round and ended up finishing on top and ended up getting the decision win. Solid win for him. Going through his body of work, I mean, 21-5, a lot of the records that he's fighting, I mean, look at going through, I mean, these names are absolute abortions, but I'll try to pronounce them. But, Masanori Kanahara, Trent Girdham, Nikita Kistayakov. I mean, look at the records. 27-13, that's a vet. 11-2, 11-4-1. Yuki Motoya, who was 23-3-5 at the time, he's beat all these dudes. Beat all these dudes in Ryzen and Deep, which are very good promotions. And I think he's going to be a tough matchup for Barcelos. I just think Barcelos offers a little bit too much. He's just too well-rounded, I think, for Victor Henry. I don't think Barcelos is going to be able to get submitted. I think if Henry's going to try to pull this one out, it's going to have to be a decision. But I think Barcelos is going to be the stronger fighter. He's going to be the bigger fighter, and he's going to have the advantage on the feet. I mean, if you watch that fight against Nurmagomedov, that was a close decision, but I mean, a very veteran way to find a way to win. I think Nurmagomedov was winning the exchanges on the feet. He's a crafty striker. The dude did about like 15 different pirouettes in that fight. Like, I've never seen so many spinning attacks come from someone than I did Nurmagomedov against Barcelos. But Barcelos, crafty vet, took him down, got some ride time, was able to win enough on the feet and push him back to get a tough decision against a very tough opponent. And he's got good wins over Chris Gutierrez, who's no slouch. Kurt Halabaugh knocked him out with an uppercut. And then in that fight, he showed some very good wrestling as well, very good wrestling techniques. I just think at the end of the day, I don't think Victor Henry poses enough of a threat to be able to win the fight against Barcelos. I think Barcelos, they're both veterans, but Victor's going to be fighting from behind, I think, going into that third round. I don't think that Barcelos is going to get the finish early. I really do think this is going to go to a decision. But I think Barcelos is just going to win the exchanges on the feet. He's not going to get taken down. And going into that third round, Henry's going to have to really do something special in order to finish that fight, in order to get the win. So going with Barcelos, he's a heavy favorite, minus 530. I really think we should be giving the La Mangosta a little bit more credit than that. But at the end of the day, this is going to be one where you sit back, you crack open a nice cold beer, and you're just like, I want to enjoy this. I want to see what, La Mongosta has to offer, because it's been a long time coming. Should have been in the UFC a long time ago, so I'm excited to see him fight. And it's going to be a good one against Barcelos. But I do think, when you put pen to paper, Barcelos has the advantage. All right, moving on to the main card. There's a couple fights on this main card where I was like, man, especially this first one. This is the one where I'm like, man, this could have definitely been on the prelims. I get it. I get why they're doing it, because Rodolfo Viera is this jiu-jitsu whiz, like black belt hunter, blah, 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 blah. This dude sucks on the feet. I'm sorry, but someone has to address his stand-up. His stand-up is awful, okay? This dude goes out there like, the only thing he does is jab, 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 jab. He jabs the entire time. That's his only attack. Against Dustin Stolfus, all he did was jab. And I mean, Dustin Stolfus is a guy that I bet against 100% of the time. Ever since I saw his Contender Series fight against Piper, where he was getting tagged on the feet, he was a heavy favorite in that fight, and ended up winning on a freak accident where he got a takedown. Piper put his hand down to brace himself to try not to get taken down, and snapped his elbow, okay? I was like, Dustin Stolfus is not going to be able to handle some of the competition that they're going to throw him in the UFC. And for the most part, I was right. But he almost beat Rodolfo Viera, which is absurd. Because Rodolfo Viera should be running through dudes with this crazy Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, background and track record that this guy has, winning every single medal in the discipline, that he should have no problems. But he has problems every fight, and that's what worries me. But lucky for him, he's fighting Wellington Turman, which is not going to pose much of a threat in any real, whether it's stand up, and most certainly not on the ground. Okay, so again, Rodolfo Viera lucks out with his opponent. I do have Rodolfo Viera winning this fight, but again, I got to talk about Rodolfo Viera. On this, he's going to lose in the stand up. He's going to jab, and Turman, he's going to wear a few of the jabs, yeah, but he's got nothing to follow it up. And Rodolfo Viera hates getting hit in the face. Like, he hates getting punched. Like, this is not the sport for him, because if you need to have some type of tenacity, and no one likes getting punched in the face, but you have to be able to visibly show that you're not, like, rattled when you get hit in the face. And Viera looks like he doesn't want to get hit in the face every time he gets hit in the face. He's got these like wide eyes. He's got this face where it's like, oh, I don't want that to ever happen to me again. It's a fight, bro. It's going to happen. It's going to happen multiple times. And you're going to have to let those hands go too. I mean, this dude looks roided out. He's muscular. Big dude. But he only throws jabs. It's wild. Anyway, Wellington Turman, I'll touch on him a little bit, but I'm not going to get into too much detail with Wellington Turman, because he doesn't offer too much on the feet. Wellington Turman's been knocked out a couple of times in the UFC. Wellington Turman doesn't offer much on the ground. Wellington Turman has won, I think, maybe 2 decisions in the UFC. And he's not going to submit Rodolfo Viera. Rodolfo Viera, the one thing I like in this fight, even though the lines are probably going to be like minus 260, I wouldn't be surprised if it closed closer to 300 by the time the fight starts. But Rodolfo Viera is very worried about his gas tank. In his first fight out, when he fought Hernandez, when he fought Fluffy, phenomenal nickname. Love that nickname. He didn't starch him right off the jump. He came out aggressive. He's wrestling, couldn't submit him, got gassed. And in the second round, he ended up getting submitted himself because he was so tired and was taking so much damage. He basically just gave up. So against Stolfus, he comes out and he is very timid. He does not get a submission until the 3rd round because he is so worried about his gas tank. He's worried about getting hit in the face, and he's worried about his gas tank. So this fight, I really like the over 1.5 rounds because I think I don't think Turman's going to be able to get the job done on the feet. If Turman's smart, if he has any ounce of brain cells, he's not going to take the fight to the ground. He should not be willing to fight off his back, and he should not be willing to engage on the ground with Rodolfo Viera unless he is on top. And even then, he should not be trying to advance towards a submission. You can't give Rodolfo Viera any type of opportunity to sweep, because once he gets down there and he is in his world, he is going to finish you off. Okay, so Turman, I think, is going to keep it on the feet. He's going to try to strike. He's going to win a lot of the exchanges from Viera to start in the first round. And then I really think got 7.5 minutes. I think Viera is going to be too timid about his gas tank again. I think he had success. He thinks he had success against Stoltzfus, and I think he's going to really try to wear it out. He's going to pick his shots, and I think we might be able to edge it, baby. We might be able to get that over 1.5. So that's the only thing that I'm betting in this fight, because I don't like Viera on the feet, and I don't like Wellington Turman. I think Rodolfo Viera is going to get the job done, but he worries me, especially because he couldn't get it done against Dustin Stoltzfus within the first 2 rounds. It took him to the 3rd round, and if he doesn't get it done, he might have lost that fight by decision. Moving on to a much more exciting fight. We got Cody Staman and Nurmagomedov. And I say that there is an avenue to this fight where it could be extremely boring, and that is the only avenue that I see Cody Staman winning this fight. It's Cody Staman. He's going to lay and pray on Nurmagomedov, and that's the only way that I see him being able to pull this fight off. I really like Nurmagomedov in this fight. I think he's got to be smarter than he was against Riani Barcelos. I can't even pronounce that guy's name. I think it's Heine. I don't know. I'm not doing him justice. I'm just butchering names left and right. So I'm sorry, Barcelos. But for the sake of the fight breakdown, let's get back to it. In that fight, Nurmagomedov winning the exchanges on the feet. But his issue was he's doing too many. He's overcommitting on his spinning attacks. Like he's trying these spinning kicks to the body and then these insane wheel kicks to the head. But he's overcommitting, and that's giving Barcelos an opportunity to grab him and take him down to the ground. So I really hope that he's learned his lesson. I mean, against Striegel, who was another wrestler, he came in as a heavy favorite, but it was going to be a guy who was going to try and engage with him in the clinch and was going to try to grab a leg and was going to try to take him down. Heavy wrestler Mark Striegel, and he starched him in the 1st round. The first time that Striegel got close to try to close the distance, he bopped him. Bopped him right on the jaw, took him down, and he didn't take him down. He fell down and then just beat his face in with ground and pound. So we didn't really get a chance to see Nurmagomedov, to see if he grew, to see if he was going to cut down on the attacks that would give his opponent opportunities to engage with him in the clinch and take him down. So if he's learned his lesson, because he is a decent wrestler, he can get taken down. But every time he got taken down against Barcelos, he was able to get back up. If he's smart and he keeps us on the feet and he's the faster striker, he picks his shots well, he's got interesting attacks, but as long as he cuts down the spinning stuff and doesn't give Staman an opportunity to wrestle him down to the ground and ride him for extended periods of time, Nurmagomedov will win the fight. And it's most likely going to be by decision unless, you can knock Cody Staman out, which is a tough task as it is. Not too many people knock out Cody Staman. Last 2 losses were against Rivera and Merab Dvalishvili, 2 heavy wrestlers in their own right. But again, Rivera won the fight on the feet, and Staman tried to take it to his world down on the ground, and Rivera was a good enough wrestler to keep it on the feet, and I think Nurmagomedov is going to be the same way. So, I got Nurmagomedov minus 200, minus 210, probably going to be a parlay piece. We'll take a look at some of the props to see, but, to win by a decision for Nurmagomedov, the line is, I think right now it's like minus 430. So this fight is going to a decision one way or another. Nurmagomedov to win by a decision might be a little bit better. We'll take a look at that. But I also don't want to rule out the opportunity of him catching Staman and knocking him out. So, like I said, the only avenue for Staman, wrestle heavy. He does throw decent shots, but I think he only has 1 knockout. I'm really not too concerned because a lot of his striking is striking to close the distance so he can clinch and grapple. So again, Nurmagomedov, like him a lot in that fight. Moving on, Michel Pereira versus Andre Fialho. So this is one that I actually reviewed last week, and in my assessment of the fight, pardon me, my assessment of this is still going to remain the same. Pereira is going to come in as a heavy favorite, but again, I'm really worried about Michel Pereira's fighting style. So he's flamboyant. He's got these crazy attacks. He's going to jump off the cage with Superman punches. He's going to do backflips to pass guard. He's going to, he's going to slap you. And he's very quick and he's very explosive. But there's a lot of things that worry me with Michel Pereira, especially fighting to decisions. You can do all this crazy ninja stuff, but at the end of the day, Michel Pereira is not knocking anyone out. He's fighting to decisions. He's winning by decision. Like I mentioned Tristan Connolly. Crazy highlight fight. All the highlights in that fight are Michel Pereira. But he lost the fight in the decision to Tristan Connolly. Because at the end of the day, you need to fight, dude. You can't just do backflips. You can't just do Superman punches. You can't chase people around the cage like a chicken with your head cut off. You got to actually do some damage, all right? You got to do something. And he does. I'll position that. I mean, he's got good, straight 1-2s. He's very quick, and he's very awkward, which makes it very difficult to read. And I think that really gives him an advantage in a lot of his fights. Andre Fialho is no slouch, though, coming into it, like I said, 14-3. He's fought in a lot of big promotions previously, and he's on a three-fight KO streak against some very decent opposition. Sang Hoon Yu was 6-1. He won that fight in 18 seconds in round 1 by punches. Fighting in UAE Warriors, which is another up-and-coming promotion. Pretty solid regional. A lot of good guys coming out of there. And Lincoln Puig, who's 10-3, KO at the end of round 1, and then Stefan Sekulic. God, that is a brutal name. Yeah, I'm not pronouncing that right, but he was 14-4 anyway. Minute 53 into the first round, he won that fight on the elbow and punches. So, I mean, this guy is at an all-time high. And if we factor in the James Vick knockout as well, he's on a 4-fight KO streak. Coming in against Michel Pereira. So it's going to be difficult for rounds 1 and probably rounds 2 for Fialho to try to get his reads. But he is a very technical fighter, and he is he does have power in his hands. Okay? And people don't really know this or like to mention this, but Michel Pereira, before he got into the UFC, he got knocked out by Dusko Todorovic, because Todorovic cut out the BS, started stalking him, realized that he's not going to be on his back foot and let Michel Pereira dictate the pace, pinned him up against the cage, and starched him. Can Andre Fialho do that? I think he can. I do like Andre Fialho in this fight as a heavy underdog, okay? Will we put a full unit on it? No, but I do think he has the opportunity to come in against Pereira, who notoriously puts his foot off the gas in the third round, i.e. the Nico Price fight. If Fialho can be there in that third round, or be there in the second round after he gets his reads in the first round, doesn't leave his chin open and gets starched right off the jump, I do think Fialho's got a shot in this one. And I think if there's going to be literally like a 4-1, like a 2-1, 4-1 underdog. I don't know what the line's at right now, but I know it's going up. He's probably close to like plus 280 right now. I like him a lot. So we're going to go with Andre Fialho in that fight. How much? We'll find out on Friday. Obviously, we'll take a look at what happens on the scales. He's taking the fight on relative short notice, so that does worry me a little bit. But I think Pereira's time's coming, man. I think unless he really tightens it up and, starts starching dudes, I think his time's coming, and I think his time might be against Andre Fialho. All right, moving on to our championship fights. And Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo. This is something that I have mentioned previously in my last video. This is a fight that already occurred twice. The first time was a majority draw. The second time, Brandon Moreno beat Deiveson Figueiredo by submission in the third round after clipping him multiple times and winning that fight in the first and second. This fight has already been fought. I'm going with Brandon Moreno, and I like Brandon Moreno a lot, okay? Deiveson Figueiredo, it's looking like he's more so on the decline, and Brandon Moreno is most definitely still on an incline, okay? Figueiredo has always had problems at this weight class, cutting down to 125. It's always a bear for him, and cutting weight does not get easier as you get older, okay? Every time he goes to cut 125, said he cut like 40-some pounds, which is just absolutely insane to cut that much, okay? So unless he's gotten with a dietitian, he's going to have a very difficult time with the weight cut, like he always does. He missed weight in the first the first title fight that he had to even get the belt. So, I mean, missing weight has been something that Figueiredo has had problems with in the past. So if he hits the scale 125 and he makes the weight, I know it's going to be a grueling cut for him. And I just think Moreno is just going to be the sharper fighter. I think Figueiredo is always going to be the bigger fighter at 125. He's always going to be the more powerful fighter at 125. But that weight cut is going to suck him dry, and I think the power bar, he's not going to be able to maintain it like he has in the past. I think Moreno, quicker, very crafty on the feet, has shown that he can take a shot. He's taken Figueiredo shots clean, especially in that first fight, and he's won like a champ. So, I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I really think Moreno is going to take this one, and I think he's going to take this one easy. He's a minus 180. I really like his game on the ground. I think Figueiredo has a vicious guillotine, And I think when he jumps guillotine early after the fight, there's not too much sweat. Like, that's the thing with jumping guillotine, is like you got to pick and choose the right time if you're going to jump guillotine, because you're going to basically just fall into full guard if you don't get the guillotine, and the guy's going to be on top. So guys that are good at guillotines, they really, really, really have to know when the right opportunity to do it is. So against Perez, like Figueiredo against Perez, very good time to pull jump guillotine. He's very confident in the maneuver, and also in the first round, like, you haven't even had a chance to perspirate. And I know that's going to sound weird to people that don't actually watch the fights, but to have a grip when you're dry, it's much more difficult to push the head and try to get out of that guillotine than it is when you've gone a couple rounds and you're wet with sweat, blood, what have you, because then you're going to slide. I'm not a science guy, all right, but it's physics or whatever it is, physics, hydrofluic aerodynamics. I don't know, but the bottom line is, when you're slippery, it's easier to push your head out. Okay, so after rambling on about guillotines and Deiveson Figueiredo, I don't think it's all going to be for naught, because I don't think he's going to be able to catch Brandon Moreno. I don't think he's going to be able to jump guillotine, and I don't think he's going to be able to knock him out, because Moreno's felt his power, been able to keep pushing forward, and he's won the better of the exchange. I mean, Moreno in that last fight to set up that submission, I mean, the lead elbow, man, like the spear elbow that he was throwing up the middle against Figueiredo was incredible. Like, that technique was sweet. I think he's going to come. I think he's going to have just something slightly different for Figueiredo each time that they fight. He's not going to get stuck in that lull where it's like, okay, like, I'm going to keep doing the same thing. Like, he's always going to have something just a little bit different to throw Figueiredo off. Like I said, I like Moreno a lot in this fight. Moreno's on the up and up. I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be a champ for a long time, and he's a people champ. I mean, he's a great guy. Loves Legos. Great guy. All right, moving on to the main event. So we're moving from the flyweights, the little guys of the world, to the big dudes, the big bangers, the big boppers. 265 coming in. Francis the Predator Ngannou is fighting Cyril Gane. And this is an interesting fight. And stylistically, everyone's been talking about it, because Francis Ngannou is the guy that has arguably the most power in his fists of any person on the face of the earth. This dude is basically got Thanos after he collected all of the stones power, okay? This guy is going to go out. Game plan is going to be simple. He's going to touch you when you're going to go to sleep. Cyril Gane has made a living off being a technical striker. Cyril Gane has a heavy Muay Thai background, and he is extremely agile for the heavyweight division. Agile and quickness, by far, out of anyone. He is like the most athletic heavyweight you will probably ever see. Okay, he's going to be on the balls of his feet. He's going to be in and out. He's going to keep his hands low, because he knows, and he's very confident that he's going to be able to slip the punches that come at him if you decide to rush. He's very good at distance management, and he's got a decent reach, and he knows how to use it. He knows how to keep the fight long. Cyril Gane is also a guy who is extremely patient. Okay, he is an extremely smart fighter. He will not rush in to do damage. He is not always going to be looking for a finish. If a finish comes organically, he will go for it. But he's going to pick and choose, and for the most part, to this point, has been able to dictate the fight at his pace, so he can go through and he can touch you with those. He can jump in with a 1-2. He can jump in and close distance with a knee, get you in the clinch, land some elbows, and then he's back out. Okay? That's what he did against Rosenstrike. That's what he did against Volkov. He's made a living in the UFC being able to fight like that. Okay? And only will he go for a submission. Not submission. I mean, he has submitted. He submitted Rafael Pessoa, but I don't think we're going to see him submit Francis Ngannou. I think he's been able to make a living by being patient and only going for the finish when he smells blood in the water. Against Francis Ngannou, it's going to be tough. This is a tough pick, because Ngannou is the underdog, and there's one rule that I have: if the current champ, is the underdog, you bet them 100% of the time, because they're a champ for a reason, okay? And people are overanalyzing this. I don't know if people are overanalyzing this. I'm very, very concerned with Cyril Gane, because he's been able to do the same thing with everyone, and his game plan has not changed. And no one has tried to do anything different against Cyril Gane. They have not tried to back him up. He's been able to maintain his distance. He's been able to avoid like being on the defensive in the clinch. I don't think he's been backed up against the cage like at all. And if he has, he's reversed position immediately and has been the guy that's forcing the issue on the cage. And that's because he's got a very good Muay Thai background. But again, Ciryl Gane, if he fights this fight at his pace, is going to win an easy decision. A very easy decision, okay? Francis Ngannou has got to do something to knock him off his pace or give him something to think about so he cannot be as relaxed as he is on the balls of his feet and just play distance management the entire time. If he's able to play distance management, he's going to win an easy fight. Ngannou, it's going to sound crazy, but similar to what he did against Rosenstrike. Rosenstrike, very accomplished kickboxer, very similar to Ciryl Gane. Not nearly as athletic, okay? Poor man Ciryl Gane with not nearly as nice of a body. But what did he do? Ngannou came in. He didn't decide to play, the kickboxing game where we're just gonna, trade kicks and I'm gonna let you fight and I'm gonna let you, get comfortable, get your reads in, and have this technical fight. I'm going to blitz you and I'm going to throw my heavy bombs and I'm going to make you make a split-second decision whether or not you want to counter me because I'm open and run the risk of me connecting with your chin and taking it back home to Ghana with me to present to all of my family. That is a difficult decision for someone to make. Ngannou has got to put Ciryl Gane in a position where it's, am I going to give up my guard and risk getting my head ripped off to counter because he's open? That is the situation that Francis Ngannou has got to get Ciryl Gane in this fight. Okay, Francis Ngannou also at the same time, and this is the fine line that he's got to toe in this fight, has got to be aware of his cardio. Okay, I know he improved it and he was much patient against Stipe and he fought in just a masterclass performance. I sound like Tyson Fury's dad, just an absolute masterclass of a performance. Except I'm not proper British and I sound like an asshole. Anyway, Francis Ngannou is going to have to manage that gas tank, and that's going to be tough because he's going to need to pressure, like I said, create these unpredictable situations where Ciryl Gane has to make a split decision while not emptying the tank too early and allowing himself to fight at Ciryl Gane's pace. And eventually, if he's dog tired, Ciryl Gane smells that blood in the water, he could go for the finish. Okay, it's one of the many avenues that this fight can take. I really do think that there's only two real outcomes in this fight. One, Ciryl Gane wins by an easy decision and cruises because Ngannou's not active enough. Very similar and very, very, I don't know what the word is for it, but similar to the Derek Lewis fight where there's not a lot of action. Or we're going to see Francis Ngannou come out, blitz Gane, and put his head through the canvas in spectacular fashion. And where everyone that's there in Anaheim and everyone watching at home is just going to be in awe. Okay, those are the two real outcomes that I see in this fight. And I think it's going to be tough for Ngannou. But here's the thing. He's the champ. And he's done it to everyone. Okay? And you're giving this guy 5 rounds with the punching power that he has to find someone's off button. And he's been able to find the off button relatively quickly in all the other fights. And you're going to give him an extra 10 minutes to try to find the off button. And that's what excites me. That's what gets me going. Because I want to see Ngannou. I'm a man that likes making money. But, if I had to, put betting aside, I'd be rooting for the guy. I'd be rooting for Francis Ngannou to get a knockout in this fight. I say right now, I'll wait till after the weigh-ins to make my pick. But I'm saying right now, I'm probably going to go Ngannou in this fight. I really think he can get the job done. And I think he knows what's on the line. And there's going to come a point in this fight, if he starts to get behind where he knows he's going to have to create one of those unpredictable situations. And I really do think he's going to find that chin. I think he's going to find that off button. Okay? And that's about all I have to say. It's not the most technical analysis, but that's the way I see it going. So, again, we got a doozy of a fight. We got a doozy of a card coming up, and I am super pumped for it. Go ahead, like, subscribe, comment, that whole gist. Please go ahead. If you think I'm an idiot and I sound like a moron, you want to tell me otherwise, go ahead and comment in the comment section. Let's get a thread going. I'll tell you why you're an idiot. You tell me why I'm an idiot, and we'll see what happens on Saturday, But I'll tell you, at the end of the day, on Saturday, we're down 1.2 units.